How are we doing, everybody? Welcome to Russell Heritage Golf. Today we're going to be talking about, I think, one of the hardest things that amateur golfers struggle to get their head around, and I think it's probably one of the things that most golfers struggle to get their head around, but tend to find that better golfers do this potentially very, very naturally. And we're going to be talking about impact. And the other reason why I've done this video is because what we're doing on the channel is we're starting to, every video is kind of all about an individual. So there's about a dozen golfers that are going to feature on the channel over the upcoming weeks. Some of these golfers are people that are based here that can come and visit for lessons, and some people are based online where we're going to be documenting their progress. The reason for doing this, in my opinion, is because we've been crying out to do this for quite some time, so we can actually figure out how to make changes and the successes and failures and all these different things. And it won't always just come from myself. You know, when people make these changes, sometimes we'll kind of learn that I've suggested the thing that they have to try and overcome, but they'll explain the reason and how they've actually done that, because that's really common, you know, sometimes with people that I teach. Sometimes people that I work with online, I might suggest, okay, well, we've got to try and do something like this, and then they'll think about it and they'll creatively come up with their own idea to do it. And that's what I want to share. So one of the things that every golfer is trying to do, or should be trying to do, is improve your consistency of hitting the golf ball, obviously, in that impact area. And the biggest amateur trait is often coined as sort of flipping. Now, flipping just means that it's where the club head is overtaking the handle in the hitting area. And I think the reason why flipping is so common is because of the sequence in the downswing gets a little disheveled and a little mixed up. But I also think it's because when you flip, what happens is that the club face comes down square, like so, right? And that's probably one of the easiest ways to feel like you're going to be able to get the club face square. If I sort of swing back and then I allow my right arm to straighten, it sort of flips the club face square and you can hit the golf ball pretty straight. But the problem is that when you start to flip and your trail arm starts to potentially straighten a little bit too soon, as we've already seen by taking a look at some of the case studies or our player golfers, it can just bring in a bit of vulnerability of the club face excessively closing, ball goes off towards the left for a right-handed golfer, then you end up aiming slightly to the right to compensate for it, and the whole thing just becomes a little bit sort of messy. So we don't want that to be the case. And what we tend to see with professional golfers is quite the opposite. They tend to make sure that the shaft angle is much further forward, and if anything, they actually aim, again for a right-handed golfer, they actually aim slightly left of the target, or parallel to slightly left, to then compensate for the sort of shaft lean and downward striking. And this gives you much more consistency of controlling angle of attack, gives you much more consistency of controlling club face, hitting out of the center of the face, all these sort of positives that you need. So what has to happen, and the fundamental difference, is that when you flip, your trail arm straightens, shall we say, a little bit potentially too soon. And obviously when you introduce shaft lean, your trail arm stays a little bit more bent in towards that hit. But it also means that the hands are further ahead with a better ball striker than somebody who flips. The hands are further behind, like so. And the big significant difference that we can see is in the club face. So when I push my hands further forward again, the club face becomes more open relative to our sort of arc. And if I sort of flip, the club face becomes much squarer towards the sort of arc. So the one thing that you have to get over, in my opinion, is when you start to do things like driving your hands forward, like so, is you have to start to understand that it will feel like the club face is really, really open. And that's in fact because the club face is more open. So then what potentially stops it from going off towards that trail hand side? Well, there's a composition of things. One, obviously you will, whilst your hands are going forward, you will rotate your lead arm to square the face, okay, like so. But the second thing that's also going to happen is that you will rotate your body a little bit more through the ball as well. But it is a case, I think, of understanding that that is completely normal. And one of the things that I talk about with people massively, again online, and people that come to visit, is it will feel like the club face is going to be more open upon collision with the ball, and it will probably just surprise you when you actually see the ball fly how straight you can actually end up hitting the golf ball. And it can grow in more confidence then, because you know that the more you get your hands forward, the more you can sort of get the feeling of rotating your body through the ball. And then you won't feel quite as dependent on timing, and you can get rid of that flip, which is definitely the biggest problem for most amateur golfers. So it's complicated to obviously diagnose exactly why you are flipping, but what I'm trying to suggest in this video is that it's completely normal for you to feel like the club face would be much more open coming in towards that downswing position. And that's what I wanted to share in this video. And then once it starts to behave more open, the reason why you would actually close it is because you would rotate your forearm in towards that hitting area to get the club face square, as opposed to getting it square by flipping. So it's this way, hands forward, rotate the back of that lead wrist towards your target like so, as opposed to flip it square. So we don't want to flip it square. We want to feel like we drive the hands more forward and rotate that hand square. And we're going to keep talking about this, but I just wanted to slip this video in here because I think it will just help you out a little bit more. Anyway, that's it. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. Always appreciate one of those. Remember, it's free to subscribe. If you're going to do so, press the little bell icon. I'll catch up with you guys again really soon.